Well, here we go, a new day. I've been staying on the boat for several months, even though we live right next to it. It's allowed me to test out a lot of the systems that I might not have got to till we got in the water. And a good thing, we found some problems, minor ones, but ones that needed corrected. I know that this week I put out episode 16, and somehow in the upload it corrupted the audio. I don't know what happened. It played fine on the editing program. So I'm going to try again today, but also I'm going to try to put together a complete episode beyond that one. So many things have been done the last month. It's been a very busy time. I still haven't got the boat quite done enough to put it in the water, but we're getting there. So testing those systems, I found that the shower drain hose was so stiff that the clamps weren't able to get a good seal on the where it connected to the sump as well as to the drain itself. So I had to redo that with a softer hose. That's corrected. Found that the sump, if the pump wasn't turned on at the right time, the sump would overflow, and that was going into the keel, which that one portion of the keel was not painted. So that made me take the motor back out and paint those two sections that weren't done yet with epoxy, so that we wouldn't have water that might have chlorine or any other additives getting into the bare aluminum, because that can cause corrosion issues. So now that's protected. The motor's back in, the belt's on. It's still waiting to be wired, and it's water cooled, so it's waiting for the plumbing for that. But the radiator is also in place. The bilge pumps are all in. They too need wired, but the plumbing part of it is all complete. So that's a big deal, because that's several pumps, 4 to be exact, throughout the boat. Yeah, so I installed the transducer yesterday, or the day before I guess, and ran the wire. It was a little short, so I had to splice in a 10-foot section to finish that run. I fabricated a swim ladder in the last month and installed it, which was missing. Painted the fore and aft decks with non-skid, so that required several days of good weather, which was dodgy at best. We have had our first rain in the season, and of course it's when I wanted to paint. So I also ran the main wire from the lazarette to a AB switch for the generator, so that we can use that to power our systems if the solar isn't keeping up, which at the present, the Amazon panels I bought are not producing according to what they were sold as. Big surprise, I suppose, maybe not. I built the cradle for the boom, the mizzen boom, excuse me, and I got that remounted, which it also included the blocks for the sheets, so that's all sheeted. Even though that all has to come apart, I needed to get it all put together and tested and make sure that it's going to work when we do go to water, so we're not trying to do it when we can't reach it. There was one more arch that went on the davits, and that in part was for that main sheet for the mizzen. And let's see here. Finally, the dinghy blocks got reconfigured with the adding of that final arch, and that made it so that we could reduce the line that it took to bring the dinghy up to just one line, and we can put a clutch in that and use the winch, and it comes up quite easily. Still a little bit of work needs to be done there. There's a little unevenness in the way it comes up, but it's close. And finally, under the stairs, the part of the stairs that's removable, there's there was a cross member on the floor level that was interfering now that the motor mount is in with some of the wiring. So I changed that, cut that out, and put an aluminum arch in that allowed clearance for everything. So all of that, and I'm going to attempt to video all of that once it's daylight. It's still quite early. Yes, and I've had my coffee this morning. Perhaps not enough, but we'll see. Anyway, so I'll go through today and really give a full-on tour of all of these things I've done and see if we can't get that loaded to YouTube today. All right, well, there we have it. That's the introduction to this week's episode. Last year when I was doing the deck, I couldn't do this most forward section because I didn't have the anchor winch, so therefore I didn't know where the base had to get welded. But now that that's all in, before the weather turns back to garbage, I'm going to try to get the deck painted and non-skidded through there. So here we are again. We've got the base coat of epoxy down. I'm masking to finish this area of the deck. Again, I couldn't finish it last year because I didn't have the anchor winch, and therefore I didn't know what the base needed to be welded to the deck. So here we go. Well, there you have it. It's all painted and ready to go. Got it done before the rain came, and that's why the tarp, just in case. But it's dry enough. I pulled the masking earlier this afternoon. So that feels really good to have that completed. It is without the tarp on it. Looks a little cleaner. Much nicer front deck. Well, while I was waiting for the front deck paint to dry, I finally came back to the head of the bed and put the shelf in that belongs in there. So that shelf is removable to reveal more space for storage of things that you might not use too often. So it's two components. There's one section in the narrow part and then this wider part. And so that gives us more deep storage. And that's on both ends of the bed. There's a head and a foot that are pretty much mirror images of each other. And already I have some spare parts sitting there that are due to go install with the 48. This may be somewhat difficult to see, but underneath of that tank is a bilge pump that will take care of any bilge water that gets in there from wherever, overflow from the shower or anything. And that is the radiator tank and the little heater core radiator for the electric motor. I'm not quite done plumbing it in, of course, because the motor goes there and I had to take it out to coat that part of the keel when I found that the shower sump was sometimes overflowing, which means there was chemical in that water that I didn't want on bare aluminum. So anyway, now the keel is fully coated wherever water might get in. Hopefully none ever does, but now we're prepared. So that was a little more than usual for some reason. Decided to stick, so we unlatch it there. There's also barrel bolts down at the floor. And then I'm going to carefully pull it out, put it on a towel. Even though it's padded, it does want to gouge the floor a little bit. There we go. More stubborn than usual this morning for some reason. probably just because I want to show you. Okay. So that reveals where the motor is. I'm going to turn on a little bit of a light. So that's the computer that controls the motor. It's a little forward of that. Then that's the radiator system for the motor, since it's water cooled. Bilge pump below. And then this is the arch I had to put onto the bottom of the stairs because it was pinching wires right there. And that's all taken care of. So that clears up a lot of space. We may eventually put some drawers under those stairs, but we'll see. They're already difficult to remove at times. Another little thing that we noticed because of staying on the boat was that the refrigerator was running 24/7 for some reason. Come to find out, the seal on this door wasn't quite good enough. We put a light in there and found that we could see daylight down this side, which also led me to not only add another piece of gasket, but to change this to a better latch. So this is the new latch, which is the kind I was looking for in the first place, but was unable to find at the time. So now it's running properly. Wouldn't have even known that was happening had I not been staying on the boat. Next, I'll give you a little bit of a tour of how we get into where all of the systems are under the stateroom floor. So here we are. Just roll back this carpet. And then there's the hatch, which I will attempt to open. And down we go. So there's the front of the motor right there, and then down here is indeed where all that plumbing is. So that larger hose there, the corrugated looking one, that's the shower drain that I had to replace. Coming around to the sump over here. Try to get the light in the right place. So there we go. Here on the opposite side from all of that is the 48-volt inverter that's not all the way installed yet either, and that's for the motor battery. So that's next on the list, the next rainy day stuff. I'm trying to get the outside stuff done right now so that we can get this boat in the water. So another piece of the puzzle this week was getting this last arch onto the back of the davits. It allows us to reconfigure the way the dinghy is pulled up. Still haven't quite got that path straightened out. And then the block that's on the top of that is for the main sheet on the mizzen sail. So we're making headway slowly, but we're getting there. This is the swim step ladder, and it allows us to get on the boat. And I'm going to try to take you along with me as I do that. I'm not sure I can do it one-handed. We'll see. The swim step now has its non-skid on it, as you can see, as we go up the ladder. And that reveals that the back deck also has the non-skid on it. In the process of hanging the anti-dog ejection netting on the railing. It'll just be on the bottom section, except back here on this afterdeck. And I'll have to put some eye bolts in the bulwarks to tie it down, but yeah, that's coming along nicely. The starboard side is nearly done. This side it's just hanging by the weight of the net to get the size figured out. So got the boom, the mizzen boom up there with the main sheet for that in place and all ready to go. Still needs lazy jacks and eventually a sail bag. So those of you that suffered through the original episode 16, I apologize for that mess, and hopefully you'll be patient and look through this one. I hope to get it out today. Thanks for watching, those that are here. This new episode is somewhat remastered of episode 16 with some additional footage, and I hope that it's better. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please give it a like and subscribe if you haven't, and I look forward to seeing you next week.